Welcome, students, to my class. Today, we are going to start our revision of our chapter number 12, Vocation. So, here we are going to start with chapter number 12, Vocation. So, now we are going to read about the author. As we know, the author of the poem is Rabindranath Tagore. He was born on 7th May 1861 and died in the year of 1941. Gurudev was a Bengali polymath who reshaped his region's literature and music, author of Gitanjali and its profoundly sensitive, fresh, and beautiful verse. So he won the Nobel Prize for Gitanjali because it was very sensitive, fresh, and beautiful. Literature in 1930, he won the prize. In translation, his poetry was viewed as spiritual and mercurial. His seemingly mesmeric personality, flowing hair, and otherworldly dress earned him a prophet like reputation in the West. His elegant pose and magical poetry remain largely unknown outside Bengal. Tagore introduced new prose and verse forms and use of colloquial language, means the normal language in which the people of West Bengal used to speak people of Bengal used to speak, thereby freeing it from traditional models based on classical Sanskrit. So, whatever he wrote, it was not only meant for the scholarly people but for the commoners as well. Moving on to the next slide. Today we are going to read his poem Vocation. When the gong sounds 10 in the morning and I walk to school by our lane, every day I meet the hawker crying, "Bangles, crystal bangles." There is nothing to hurry him on. There is no road he must take, no place he must go to, no time when he must come home. I wish I were a hawker, spending my day in the road, crying, "Bangles, crystal bangles." When at 4 in the afternoon I come back from the school, I can see through the gate of that house the gardener digging the ground. He does what he likes with his spade. He soils his clothes with dust. Nobody takes him to task if he gets baked in the sun or wets or gets wet. I wish I were a gardener digging away in the garden with nobody to stop me from digging. Just as it gets dark in the evening and my mother sends me to bed, I can see through my open window the watchman walking up and down. The lane is dark and lonely, and the street light stands like a giant with one red eye in its head. The watchman swings his lanterns and walks with his shadow at his side, and never once goes to bed in his life. I wish I were a watchman, walking the streets all night, chasing the shadows with my lantern. So, this is the poem Vocation. Here we get to see the poet wishes to be a gardener, to be a hawker, and to be a watchman. He loves all this profession and he wants to exercise this profession. So the poem describes a child's longing for freedom he sees in the lives of those around him. When the gong sounds 10 in the morning, he walks to his school and sees the hawker crying, "Bangles, crystal bangles." And he wishes he could be a hawker. So while returning at 4, what does he do? He finds the gardener digging the ground. And what he wishes? He wishes to be a gardener. So, and at night, when it is dark and his mother sends him to bed, what does he do? He wants to be like a watchman, swinging his lantern up and down the road. So, here the poem gives us an insight into the working of a child's mind. Children dislike parental control on their activities. There is always hunger in them for freedom. They crave for freedom. So the freedom of hawker, gardener, and the watchman attracts and fascinates the child. And he enjoys the utmost freedom without slightest rebuke from anybody. However, the young boy values only freedom without authority. He doesn't at this point realize what education and discipline would bring him. Foolishly, the boy does not see the hardship that each worker faces. Like the hawker, he yells all day, standing up in the same spot to sell his bangles. So, undoubtedly, it is very boring. But the poet does not, the little boy does not have that idea. As well as the gardener is doing a toilsome job, spending hours back-breaking work, and his job is dirty, his hands are soiled. But the young boy does not understand the toil which he goes through. Similarly, the watchman walks all the night without sleeping. The streets are shadowy, desolate, and lonely. He has got a very tedious job too. Therefore, we can say that the outlook of the boy is obviously very childish. Hopefully, with time and with his growing maturity, he will understand and find his vocation through his proper commitment and dedication towards his studies. So, this is the poem. Now, we are going to go through a short summary of the poem. So, here the poem describes a child's longing for freedom he sees in the lives of those around him. When the gong sounds 10 in the morning, he walks to his school and sees the hawker crying, "Bangles, crystal bangles." And he wishes what? He wishes to be a hawker. Then he finds the gardener digging the ground and he wishes to be the gardener. And with the watchman during dusk, he wants to be the watchman. So, children, this is the summary or the gist of the poem. Now, there are a few question answers following it. I hope we have recapitulated the lesson. Now, let's brush up the question answers a little bit. Everyone, pay attention. Why does the child wish to be a hawker? The child wished to be a hawker because there will be no one to hurry him. He can take any road and no fixed time to return home. So you can understand, children, that the poet or the child wishes to be a hawker because he can enjoy his freedom. That is why. Next question, why does the child envy the gardener? The child envies the gardener because there is no one to stop him from digging. He enjoys his freedom to the full. There is no mother of his to rebuke him, to stop him. What does the child wish to do if he becomes a watchman? We know the child wished to be a watchman, he would walk through the streets all night, chasing the shadows with his lantern. And the last question, how does the poem bring out the innocence of the child? So, children, you can see that the poem brings out the innocence of the child by highlighting his wishes. The child playfully wants to pursue various vocations without understanding the hard work behind them. So, children, to conclude, I would like to say none of the vocations which the child chose are very easy. Every vocation has a great hard work behind it. So, the child is very, very innocent to say that they are enjoying their freedom. Rather, they are working very hard. So, this is just the childishness of the little boy to change his vocation and also to find that these vocations are much better than the position which he holds in. So he wants to grow up and wants to become a hawker because he can go for hawking his things from one street to another. Secondly, he wants to be a gardener to enjoy his freedom and get baked under the sun and getting himself dirty. And thirdly, he wants to be the watchman because he wants to uh, he wants to remain awake throughout the night. And being a child, his mother forces him to go to bed early, but he does not like that. That is why he wants to choose this as his vocation. So this is the poem, children. I hope we have recapitulated the lesson. All of you revise this poem, revise the question answer. So this much for today, children. Thank you and have a great day ahead.